Have you ever just looked at someone and thought, why in the world would they do that? I mean, seriously. Or maybe, and let's be honest, you've caught yourself doing something that you know is completely against your own best interests. Human behavior, it's one of the most complex, fascinating, and, yeah, sometimes frustrating puzzles out there. So let's try and decode it.
And that really gets to the core of it, right? This big paradox. We put things off, we pay too much for stuff, we ignore facts staring us in the face, and sometimes we make choices that actively hurt us. If we're supposed to be these smart, evolved beings, why do we sabotage ourselves so often? That is the central question we are going to unpack today.
So to set the stage, I want you to picture two young men. They're on completely different paths. One is a freshman at Harvard, he's sweet, he's kind, he wants to be a doctor. The other is a teenager in Afghanistan. He's joining the Taliban and he's learning how to kill. I mean, it is hard to imagine two people more different, isn't it? Just keep them in the back of your mind, because figuring out how they connect is the key to, well, everything.
All right, so let's start peeling back the layers of this thing. To even begin to get to the bottom of this puzzle, we first have to just completely tear down a very old and very wrong idea. This myth that we are fundamentally rational creatures.
You know, for the longest time, classical economics was built on this idea that humans are like calculators, that we're always weighing the pros and cons and acting logically in our own self-interest. But then this new field, behavioral economics, came along and just shattered that myth. It showed us that not only are we irrational, but our irrationality isn't random and actually follows these consistent, predictable patterns. It's a feature of how our brains work, not some unfortunate bug.
So why are we like this? Well, the Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman gave us this fantastic model. Think of your brain as having two operating systems. You've got System 2, which is your conscious, rational mind. That's the part that solves a math problem. It's slow and it takes a ton of effort. But System 1 is the real star of the show. It's your gut instinct. It's fast, it's automatic, it's emotional, and it handles almost everything we do without us even having to think about it.
And because we're running on that fast, intuitive System 1 pretty much all the time, we are wide open to a whole bunch of mental glitches, or what psychologists call cognitive biases. For instance, we feel the pain of losing $100 about twice as much as we feel the pleasure of gaining it. We'll take a small reward right now over a much bigger one later. We get stuck on the first number we hear when we're negotiating. These aren't logical decisions, you see. They're mental shortcuts that systematically lead us astray.
But here's where it gets really interesting. These so-called glitches, they aren't just random bugs in our software. To understand why they even exist, we have to go much, much deeper. We're talking about the ancient programming that's been hardwired into our DNA over millions of years of evolution.
The author Robert Greene captured this idea perfectly. It really does feel like there's a part of us, right? A stranger within that pushes us to do things we just can't explain. This isn't some literal demon, of course. It's the echo of our primitive past. It's a set of incredibly powerful forces operating just below the surface of our conscious awareness. The legendary psychologist Carl Jung actually had a name for this. He called it the shadow. Think of it as the collection of all the parts of ourselves we don't like to admit we have. Our darker impulses, our aggression, our deep tribal instincts. We try to push these things down, to repress them so we can be good people. But they don't just vanish. They operate in the dark, unconsciously, influencing our behavior in ways we don't even realize.
And this all goes back to our fundamental nature. We evolved as social creatures. For our ancient ancestors, survival depended completely on fitting in with the tribe. Being cast out meant death. So this hardwired us with a deep, primal need for conformity, for status, for belonging. We unconsciously copy others, we get swept up in group emotions, and we have this tendency to divide the world into us and them. A lot of our modern irrationality is just this ancient survival software running in a world it was never designed for.
So we have these cognitive biases, and we have these deep primal urges. But believe it or not, that's still not the whole picture. Let's move to our next layer and see how this all builds, because the truth is, no single explanation is ever enough to explain human behavior.
And this brings us to this incredible core insight from the neurobiologist Robert Sapolsky. He basically argues that trying to find the one single cause for any behavior is just impossible. Behavior isn't a single domino falling over. It's a vast, intricate web. The second you start talking about a gene, you are also talking about the culture that shaped that gene's expression and the evolutionary pressures that created it in the first place. You see? They are all inseparable.
This right here illustrates Sapolsky's point so brilliantly. To really understand any action, you have to look at it on every single time scale.
Think about it. 1 second before you act, it's about neurochemistry, neurons firing in your brain. But zoom out to hours before, and you've got hormones priming your brain to react a certain way. Zoom out to years before, and you've got that person's entire life experience shaping them. Centuries before that, their culture is defining their norms and values. And millennia before that, you've got evolution shaping the very species. Every single layer plays a role. They all connect.
Okay, so after navigating all of that staggering complexity, from brain chemistry all the way to ancient evolution, you might be thinking it's impossible to ever really understand each other. But the final layer of this onion reveals a surprisingly simple and really powerful truth. This is a profound idea, one that was presented in a TEDx talk by Larry Rosen. And it's this: while the things we do are incredibly, infinitely varied, from baking a cake to fighting a war, the deep, fundamental motivations driving those actions are universal. At our absolute core, we all want the same basic things.
And this is the crucial part. Remember our Harvard student and our Taliban fighter? One learns to heal, the other learns to kill. Worlds apart, right? But both of them are driven by the exact same fundamental human needs. The need to be respected by their peers, the need to belong to a community, to a brotherhood, and that deep, powerful need to make a difference in their world and help the people they love. Their methods couldn't be more different, but their core motivations are identical.
And that leaves us with this one last, pretty provocative thought. If all of us are running on the same basic operating system, and we're all driven by the same universal needs for respect and belonging and a sense of purpose, then what truly defines us? What separates one of us from another? Maybe at the end of the day, it's not our motivations that make us who we are. Maybe it's the paths we choose to fulfill them.